A new national Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultural precinct is set to be built in Canberra's parliamentary triangle, putting First Nations people at the centre of the nation's governance and cultural institutions. The federal government this week committed over $300 million to establish and build the new facility near the banks of Lake Burley-Griffin between Old Parliament House and the Australian War Memorial.
Called Nura, a term meaning home, country or place of belonging across multiple Indigenous languages. It'll include a learning and knowledge centre, a national resting place to care for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander ancestral remains, and a new home for the Australian Institute of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Studies. IATS's Chief Executive, Dungari and Birripi man Craig Ritchie has been spearheading the proposal and joins me now from Canberra. Good morning. Congratulations. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Dan. Great to be here.
This has been a long called for venture. I think the first reports go back almost a decade. What did you make of the news this week?
Oh, Dan, we were off the hook excited about the announcement that the Prime Minister made. And as you say, this is a concept and an idea that's been long in the making, and that we've worked really hard to get the government across the line on this.
And I know that the work of IATS is being led by your Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander board, has had extensive conversations at the political level in the community as well. What do you think this facility will mean for the community?
Well, I think it will mean a couple of things. I think it has great powerful symbolic value, as you just said, to bring our story as First Nations people into the heart of the nation, that part of the capital city that tells the story of this country through its institutions, and with the singular and very important exception of the Aboriginal Tent Embassy, there's nothing that speaks really to the significance and the centrality of First Nations people to this nation's story. And this cultural precinct that will house, as you said, IATSIS, and it will also house the new national resting place, will fill that void that's currently there in our national capital storytelling.
And we were just seeing some images there of the banks of Lake Burley-Griffin. That's the general area where it'll be situated, isn't it? It's not going to be where the Tent Embassy is now, which is just outside of Old Parliament House.
That's absolutely right, Dan. We took great care in selecting the site for the Nura precinct because, as I said, the Tent Embassy occupies a really unique and important place in the history of First Nations people and our relationship to the nation. And we didn't want to do anything that was going to compromise that place. And so the Nura precinct will be located right down close to the lake, actually probably in the prime site in the parliamentary zone. And we were very excited to be able to get that site and secure that location for this development.
For anyone who's not familiar, what will the Learning and Knowledge Centre component be? Is this an exhibition space, a gallery, a museum?
Well, look, all of those sort of things. As you know, Dan, the facilities that the institute that I lead operates out of built some time ago now and not really fit for purpose insofar as they don't contain any really effective public engagement exhibition space. And so when we relocate to this new facility, there will be exhibition space, there'll be galleries obviously, but space for school groups and school programs to operate, and a range of public lectures, and it will be a facility that will enable all Australians to be able to access and engage with the cultures of First Nations people and really connect with the full story of our country, which, as we know, stretches back beyond 1788, back beyond 1770, for 65,000 years. And that's the heritage of, obviously, First Nations people, but it is the heritage of the country, of the nation. And so the facility that we intend to build there, which will obviously be subject to a design competition, will really support our goal of giving everybody access to the full story of this nation.
And the other component, or one of the other components, is the national resting place. IATS has done a huge body of work over recent years around repatriating remains that have been taken by universities, museums, other groups around the world. How do you see that component of the resting place working?
Well, just to be clear, the repatriation of ancestral remains from overseas is a responsibility of the Office of the Arts. We deal with the return of cultural heritage items. However, one of the challenges, of course, with returning ancestors home is the quality of the records that are kept around ancestral remains. And so there's been some work going on for many, many years under the Commonwealth's repatriation program to undertake the kind of research that's necessary for us to return ancestors to their country. Now, that work is currently happening in Canberra, and it's happening under the auspices of the National Museum. However, the facilities that work is carried out in the view of many people, and there was a large extensive national consultation on this question some years ago, really revealed that the facilities needed to be much more culturally appropriate, much more open to communities to do the kind of ceremonies and do the kind of practices that they need to do in relation to their ancestors. I mean, it's really critical to understand that the National Resting Place will continue that work in purpose-built facilities. It will not be a place of burial. It's not the intention that all ancestral remains from the various First Nations people around the country are located in the national capital. That would be not appropriate. It's called a resting place because that's what it's intended to be. It's a stop on the way home. And so the really important work of research to identify the particular location where ancestors come from will be carried out, as I say, in purpose-built facilities that are culturally appropriate and operate within a framework of Indigenous governance.
Yeah, well, some big discussions to have. And IATS's Chief Executive, Craig Ritchie, thanks so much for joining us. Congratulations again.
You're welcome, Dan, and thank you so much.